Hey guys, it's Jake here. Gonna take you out on a service call with me over to look at a split system heat pump. It's an existing customer of mine. It's his first floor unit. I believe it's an R410A system. I can't remember if it's like a Bryant or Carrier ICP, something like that. But he sent me a picture of it this morning, and the ice on the outside unit had gone past the louvers on the unit. So I told him to shut the system down and to put it into emergency heat. So I'm heading over there right now. Gonna take a look at this one and see why that outdoor unit is icing up. Not sure if we're gonna find maybe a bad defrost board or a bad defrost thermostat. I don't really know, but we're gonna try to figure it out and get them back up and heating. Wow, this is a big unit. I forgot how tall this thing is. Look how bad that ice is. Man, that's rough. All right, well, I'm gonna open up the door. It's a Bryant system, I could tell just by looking at it. I got my stool set up in my bag over here. So let's open this panel up, and I'm gonna go inside and turn it from emergency heat over to normal heat. We're gonna see if this defrost thermostat is closed. It should be with all this ice on there. All right, I got the door off here. Looks like I was here back in July of 2024. Put a run capacitor on it. I'm gonna go ahead and see if this defrost sensor is closed here. That's this terminal right here on the board. I'm gonna back probe it here if I can and just make sure it's closed. If I can't, I'll just pull it off and test it. Well, I got it on the dummy beep here and it's not beeping. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this off of here and check it this way. My probe leads might be a little fat on the thing. I'm gonna hold you on my legs here. Make sure I got a good connection on this. I don't even think it's gonna get down in there. I might have to go make sure I got a good connection here. This thing should definitely be closed right now. Nothing, it's open. So we got a bad defrost sensor here. I'm gonna I guess put something on this to emulate that it's closed here, and then we're gonna hit this with the screwdriver here, the speed up, and force this thing into defrost, make sure it's going into defrost. The defrost sensor is not closed, so we got a bad defrost sensor. I know that for sure. I'm gonna just make sure right here on the back I got some easy access points right here that I know my probes are making good contact to. And again, I'm not closed here. That defrost sensor is encased in ice. I believe this is a 65 open, close on 33, 65 33 defrost thermostat. So when it's below 33 degrees, this thing's supposed to close. And then when this thing, it's a time temperature defrost, so that when it runs, the accumulated runtime that it's set at, it will go into a defrost here. So it's used on dip switches here, looks like. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little jumper on this and make sure that this thing is jumped together, and then I'm gonna speed this up and force a defrost. Can't run it like this, it's gonna kill it. All right, so I just put a stake on the defrost thermostat location. Should be grabbing it, so let's go ahead and speed this thing up, see if we can't force a defrost here. There it went. Alright, so it's in defrost. I imagine this thing's going to be angry for a full time on the defrost. Should stay in defrost for its maximum amount of time here, because I got this stake on there, which is showing that defrost sensor is closed. So it's in defrost right now. Outdoor fan motor stops. That's normal. It's now switched into cool mode, and this coil now is going to become the hot coil. So it should start hopefully melting off the ice if we got refrigerant in this thing. All right, it's still holding in defrost. I just went around this thing with my condenser whisk brush and just knock some of that ice and snow off of there. It's really ice, but what I'm gonna do is go get a glove, because that's freezing my hands. My hands are already chapped and all cut up from all this cold weather we've been having. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some gloves out of my van and keep wiping this thing with the condenser whisk to help try to speed this thing up. Try to knock off what I can. I don't want to use anything sharp on it. You don't want to, you know, puncture a hole, of course, into the coil. But we're gonna go ahead and try to get some of this knocked off here. I didn't see a hose anywhere on this side of the house either, so I really don't want to run a hose in this. It's melting off some of the stuff inside. You can see a lot of it's falling off. It's definitely melting a lot of that ice out of there. As you can see, I've been wiping it. This side's looking a lot better. All I do is just take it like this and wipe. Might hit it like that, or just go up and down with it turned sideways, and it kind of digs into it a little bit better. I'm just knocking the snow off of it. Had to get the gloves, man, because my hands were freezing. But it's a safe way to do it without having to pull a water hose. It does take a little bit longer. You can see if you turn it sideways, it makes pretty good headway, especially during a defrost. I'm getting ready to kick it back into defrost right now so that it'll go ahead and initiate again. You can see all the snow it's piled up, or ice that's piled up around the unit. You can see this side looks pretty good. I'm gonna get the rest of this knocked off, go ahead and initiate another defrost. All right, well, I checked my van and I do not have this kind of defrost thermostat. I have some for Goodman, Armstrong Air. So I'm gonna go, I called the supply house here local, not the one out in Kingsport, but one here in the city. And they have this exact defrost thermostat in stock. So I'm gonna run over and grab it. See, it's steaming off the top. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up. I went ahead and grabbed a little bit bigger brush. This is a stiffer bristle brush I use for maintenances. And I just hit this with my gloves on. My gloves are soaking wet now. You can see it looks a lot better. Still got probably one more cycle to go. Here's the, oh, sorry about that, I hit the camera. Here's the back side. So it looks a lot better. It still needs to do some stuff in there though. Oh, fogging my camera up there. Sorry about that. All right, I'm gonna let this cycle complete. All right, it kicked back on. I'm gonna go ahead and send it back into another defrost. Let it run for maybe a minute or two here. Let's see if this will hit it. Yep. You don't have to keep holding it on those. You gotta hold it in and then you let it off, like what, 5, 6, 7 seconds, something like that. It is shifted now back into defrost. You can see the water pouring out the bottom of this thing. Look at the accumulation of ice around the bottom. It's a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it some more with my bristle brush. Try to help clear this thing out a little faster here. You can see it's doing pretty well now. It's got all the ice melted off the inside of the coil completely. Look at all the buildup down there in the bottom. It's a lot. The defrost thermostat is free of ice down there in the corner now. I just scrubbed it with the brush again. This side has a little more on it right here, but it's still doing well. All right, I'm gonna let this thing go, and I have to go pick that up. I don't have one in my van for this unit. I'm probably actually just gonna buy a couple of them, one for this unit, one to keep back in stock. I must have used it somewhere and then not restocked it. All right, well, I found the spigot. It's all the way on the other side of the house. So I filled up this 2-gallon pitcher and two 1-gallon containers of outdoor spigot water. I went ahead and poured it on this, and it cleared it the rest of the way off. Still a tiny bit right here on the louvers, but I'm gonna call that all right. At least while I go and get the pick up the defrost thermostat. It's completely clear. There's a tiny bit down there in the corner, so I might fill that 2-gallon jug up one more time. This is completely clear other than a tiny little bit right in that one spot right there going down. So I'll probably do one more jug of the 2-gallon cleaner. So I'm gonna call this all right for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that jumper off, and then I'm gonna kill the call for heat on the heat pump. There we go. So that should turn it back over to cool mode. I mean heat mode from cool mode. You can hear the reversing valve shift there. I got a little bit right here I need to hit, so I'll get one more 2-gallon container when I come back from the supply house. Now the outdoor fan should turn on, and there it goes. All right, I'm gonna pull the disconnect out here. I'm gonna shut the heat off and go to emergency heat. That way it only runs the heat strips inside with the air handler. Okay, I'm back. This is the defrost thermostat I went to. Fast OEM parts, fast HVAC parts, 1173637. It's a open at 65, close at 33, and it's got the proper connector on it, so I don't have to splice this. If you didn't have this kind of connector, you could just, you know, cut those wires, wire nut your other sensor to it. So that's what we got. Pretty sweet. Well, the sun has come out and it's warming up quick. It's saying it's 41 degrees on my thermostat here. Before I put this thing in, I do want to test it and make sure that it's you know, closing. Right now, with the temperature where it's at, I would expect that it should be open because it's above 33 degrees, right? So I'm in continuity and I'm touching my little test lead area and I'm reading open. So what I'm going to do, since we have some snow here, I'm going to dip my sensor down in the snow. That should drop it below 33 degrees and my sensor should close. And that emulates that if it's sitting on the coil temperature drops to 33 degrees or below, right? Below 33, it's going to close, and when this timer is ready, it's going to start a defrost. So let's go ahead and do that. Since we got the snow here, might as well. Just want to kind of get that right down in there. Give that a little few seconds, minute, and we'll test to make sure it's closed. Okay, so it's been about a minute or so. I'm gonna go ahead and see if this thing is sorry, I'm trying to hold the camera with my fingers. I'm gonna go ahead and see if this thing's closed. I'm gonna just test in right here. I can get my probes in there. Yep, I'm just back probing it right now. So we are closed, so this switch is operational. I hate to not test them, if at all possible. I like to test them because you can get a bad part right from the manufacturer. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and knock the snow off this thing, and we're gonna work on installing it. So this unit is like really tall, right? So what I did was I just took the screws out of the top of the fan shroud all the way around for the top of the cabinet here, and then I took a couple screws out of this here on each side, the bottoms and then the sides, and then you just cut the little zip tie here, and that gives you a little bit of wire you can feed in right there, and then you got access to the defrost thermostat. You can see it right there, 2 pink wires. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that one off, and then we're gonna put the new one on and route the wires through. I'll put the slide this back in, and then put the screws on the top, you know, reset at the top on there. The power, of course, is off. I figured I should mention, on smaller units where it's not so flippin' tall, you can just take this off, right? And then you can lift this up and lean it on something or lay it on its side and then reach down in there to the defrost thermostat. But this one is so tall, man, that's too far of a reach. So I went this route. Actually took these 2 off first, and I didn't need to. There was 2 on this little silver part. You don't have to take those off, they can stay attached. But I'm gonna get down in there and swap that thing out. With this thing open, you just come over here and you pinch your thermostat, defrost thermostat, and then you gotta just take it off of the tube that it's on. Just remember what tube it's on. You could always mark it with a marker, but it stands out from the rest. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna use 2 hands, take that off, and pull this pink wire down and through, and then route the other one up and through. Sorry, the heat pump kicked on behind me. You can see I just have this door out here, you know, resting, and you got easy access over here. You want to make sure that indention, this is the old one, of course, this part's on the pipe, and then you got to lock that in, and then route the wires up. I went ahead and zip tied it here, and then it goes up through this little holder, and then I'm going to route it up through here and up to its location up there. All right, I got the top put back on all the way around. Got the bottom put back on. Got a zip tied into the frame here. I got another one here. Put one again inside there, just to keep that thing from maybe getting pulled in by the fan, you know, give it some, and also to keep it from rubbing in the future. Got it plugged in up here now, so we're ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and get some water from the spigot real quick and just melt the rest of that ice down in there. There's a little bit of snow left, so I'm just gonna pour some water in there before I fire it up, just to get that out of there. I'll grab my 2-gallon container and a couple 1-gallon jugs and just pour that through. You can see the coil now is completely clear. It's gotten a little bit warmer out here. Once I fire the system up in heat mode, I'm going to check the temperature split. I'm going to go ahead and hook probes up to it and make sure the charge looks okay. Okay, so one other thing I noticed here is that the defrost timer on this is actually set at 90 minutes. The first 2 dip switches are in the lower position, and number 3 is for quiet shift. I don't mind quiet shift being off, but 1 and 2 set at 90 minutes around here. Sorry, my thumb was covering it. 1 and 2 being set at 90 minutes. That's the factory default for this Bryant. That's too long of a defrost cycle. I've never worked on the heat here. I changed on this particular unit. I did the capacitor out here, and I replaced, I believe it was a capacitor on the indoor blower motor. Yeah, it was a capacitor on the indoor blower. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. So here's the dip switch settings here. If 1 was on, 2 is off. That's at 30 minutes. If 1 is off, 2 is on, that's at 60 minutes. And we're in the factory default of off and off on 1 and 2. And that's just way too long for a defrost set point for the timer on this one. So how this works is the defrost thermostat, when it gets below 33 degrees, it's going to close, and then the defrost timer is going to start. And then after that accumulated runtime, 30, 60, 90, or even 120, if the defrost thermostat is closed, it's going to go ahead and shift into defrost. We got some really cold temperatures coming up here within the next few days. We're going to be highs in the low 20s, and we're going to have single-digit lows at night for several days straight. And that's just too long. So I'm going to move it over to 60 minutes. If they were up in the mountains or something, I would put it in 1 and 2 30 minutes. I like 45 as well, but this isn't an option here. So where they're in the city here, we're safe, should be safe at 60 minutes. I'm not sure why that wasn't set when this unit was installed. Maybe they didn't know anything about setting defrost time. But I'm going to go ahead and put that at 60. So I'm going to move 1 to off and 2 to on. Alright, so if you can get your fat finger in there, you can do it by finger, or you can just use like a little thermostat screwdriver. So I got it set now. I got number 1 off, number 2 on, and I'm going to leave the quiet shift off. Number 1 off, number 2 on, quiet shift is still off. So now we're at 60 minutes of accumulated runtime. This thing's, you know, once that defrost thermostat is closed, it's going to shift into a defrost. But if this defrost thermostat stays closed, this thing's going to time out on the defrost after 10 minutes. So they're all pretty close to 10 minutes. Some will be longer. It just depends on the brand and the model you're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and restore power here, but I want to set that 90 minutes around here where we live in Northeast Tennessee. That's just too long. Something else I figure I should mention, since I'm here anyways. If you want to test defrost, typically you short out the speed up test pins, typically 5 to 7 seconds. I hold it somewhere in there. If you hold your screwdriver on that, it will not shift into defrost. You actually have to remove it. So you want to hold it typically 5 to 7 seconds, and once you remove that, this thing will shift into defrost. If the defrost thermostat is open, okay, it's not below 33 degrees, this thing's only going to do about a 30-second defrost, and then it's going to shift back in. It'll take longer if the quiet shift is shifted to on here in the dip switch, but if it's not on, it'll take about 30 seconds, and then it's going to shift back into heat mode. If the defrost thermostat is closed, it's going to keep that defrost until the defrost thermostat opens, meaning it gets above 65 degrees, or it times out at 10 minutes. I hope this helps somebody understand it if you're not familiar with these things. Okay, I ended up putting about 8 gallons of water down through the center to get that ice off of everything in there in the bottom of the unit. Mainly off the accumulator and any pipes. All the pipes were already defrosted, but there was a little ring of ice around the accumulator. I just poured that in there and let that melt off the ice. Fired the unit up. I actually put it in cool mode with the reversing valve wire out here disconnected. It's a lot quieter than that one. And put my probes to the system and used my field piece probes inside on the supply and return. Had a good temperature split. It was a little high at first, and I was getting a little higher head pressure than what I expected, and then I looked at the return grill, and the return grill was completely plugged up with dust. It's a 20 by 30, it's a 3-ton, and it had dust all over it, and the filter was caving in, and it was plugged bad. It's been at least a year, I bet, since they've changed that filter. Pulled the filter and continued the test, and my head pressure came back in range of where I kind of thought it should be. Pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one okay. I did warn them about the defrost board. Maybe in the future that could go out, but right now we have a working defrost thermostat. I tested the defrost with the I tested that defrost sensor in the snow to make sure that it was closed, and it was closing, so I know it's functioning. Hopefully they don't have any more issues out of this thing, and it'll give them some good heat for the days, weeks, and months to come. I did suggest we need to probably do a maintenance, especially that one. It's pretty bad, but you know, we'll see what they want to do in the spring. All right, I want to say thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. You guys stay safe out there. Get home safe to your families. Talk to everybody later. Well, you can see the water did the trick on getting all the ice out of there. Got some debris down in there, but we don't have any more ice. Was able to melt all that stuff out of there. I didn't want that big ring of ice staying around the accumulator and all that ice to be in the bottom of the unit. I want this thing to drain out. So that should suffice.